All right, today we're going to go over Satire is Dying because the internet is killing it. It's the next text in your book. The first thing we're going to talk about with this text is analyzing the development of ideas. We've talked about main idea before, but just as a quick refresher, main idea is the most important point the writer wants to make about the topic. Now, this is usually developed through several key points, each of which is supported by details. An author may state a main idea outright. However, more often, the reader must infer the main idea from the key points and details in the selection. So in order to identify main idea, you're really going to have to break down the overall argument, right? So what are the pieces of evidence that are being provided? What are the subclaims? In order to do this, you could choose to use a graphic organizer like the one on the page. So we start with our main idea, which is on the left, which in this specific text, it's explicitly stated in the title of the piece, right? Satire is dying because the internet is killing it. So what are the three key points, or there might be more, the key points that the author is making, and what are the details that they provide under those key points, right? Just like you would break your argument into your thesis, and then you might have, for example, 3 subclaims, but then under those subclaims, you are fully providing evidence and warrants, etc. So you're literally breaking apart the argument. Now, in some texts, you might have to work from the right to the left. So you'll be able to identify the key points because they're typically topic sentences in the paragraphs, and you'll be able to write the details, and then from that you have to identify the main idea. It's not explicitly stated. Next, we're going to look at analyzing tone. Again, we talked about tone, but that is another thing we're going to focus on in this text. Tone is the attitude that a writer expresses toward a subject. In nonfiction, tone is often developed through diction or word choice and syntax. So syntax meaning like the grammatical structure of sentences. The tone of text may be intimate or distant, serious or humorous, ironic or earnest, understated or hyperbolic. Think about like all the little emojis in your phone. Each one of those emojis represents a specific feeling on something, right? So when you send a text message, you might send an emoji that conveys the tone you want somebody to read your text with, or conveys the emotion that you're feeling. To identify tone in a selection, you can try reading it aloud. Reading text aloud in general typically help you naturally feel out the tone of a text. But consider what attitude toward the subject and audience do the words, sentence structures, and details convey. So as you read, how does the word choice hint at how the author is feeling about this particular text? Or does the structure lend itself to any sort of point that you're making? An author's tone can powerfully shape readers' perceptions of a selection's topic. So if an author is saying something with a very serious tone, as a reader, you know to take this thing seriously. But if there's a bit of sarcasm in it, like we kind of read through with A Modest Proposal, then you know like to take it with a grain of salt, or to don't take the argument full-heartedly. As you read, consider what is the overall tone, and does it help the author to achieve his or her purpose? On the left here, I did give you an image with some tone words. There are some for positive and negative tone. So positive, you could have energetic, humorous, illuminating, nostalgic, optimistic. Negative could be gloomy, pessimistic, strident, tense. I want you guys as grade 12 students to really get out of this idea that the tone is happy or the tone is sad. You need to work on identifying more specific tone words and broadening your vocabulary when describing tone. Now, we're reading an editorial. What are the genre elements of an editorial? Well, it expresses an opinion often on a controversial subject. So if something is controversial means people don't necessarily agree one side or the other. There's a lot of debate about it. They're often found on the editorial page of a newspaper, and they present arguments and use rhetorical techniques to persuade readers. This particular text has a lot of critical vocabulary, so if there are any words on this list that you are unfamiliar with, please make yourself familiar with them before we read. I'm not going to require a specific vocab activity from you guys at this point, but just to go through these words: algorithm, accolade, curate, askew, finite, satire, spoof, monetize, and meme. So if there's any words on here that you're not familiar with, they will appear in the text, so please make yourselves familiar, and I will see you guys when we start reading.